G'day, ZiggyD here, and in this video I want to share with you guys a theory-crafted and planned build for the patch 1.2 expansion pack Forsaken Masters in Path of Exile. There's a lot changing in this patch, and a lot of this is just guesswork, I'll be completely honest with you guys. But I know a lot of you want a new build to start off the new league with, and I think Ethereal Knives is going to be one of the cheapest, decently balanced between damage and tankiness, and just kind of all-round fun builds to play for the new league. So this is probably going to be my go-to recommended beginners build for the new league. It's very, very cheap and tanky. I've put together like my core build design philosophy for this character and made sure that we could really nail each of those points when planning out the character today, which we planned it out on the live stream for a few hours. And the first thing was that it was very cheap, so I managed to make an EK build without mind over matter and no crit scaling, but still very good damage, and we did manage to check off those boxes. Wanted to make a tanky character with lots of life, grace, and Iron Reflexes. We checked off those boxes. I wanted to cover the mana costs of the skill exclusively on the passive tree, so that makes the gearing cheaper. Checked that box, and Reflex is not an issue as well, so we don't have to really worry about anything like Lightning Coil or anything like that. So I'm very happy with how this character actually turned out. It's both hardcore and softcore viable. It's got a lot of life. You can see the life title over here is 170%, which compared to the old tree is somewhere around the 230%-ish sort of mark for a previous build. And this has, you know, Iron Reflexes with a bit of evasion scaling and the Grace aura as well. So pretty happy with how this turned out. I'll be able to give you guys a link to this spreadsheet just here, but I'll also go through the things in this video as well. So basically I wanted to make this character as simple and effective as possible. When I was planning this, my mind kind of went back to my old Rain of Arrows Ranger, which was the build I used to get top 40 in a Nemesis 1-week race. Like that character, I wanted to make it very simple and just very solid, very easy, very cheap to gear with very limited gear requirements. So that build I was able to get, you know, fully geared and get to a very high level. I think I got to level 86 in 1 week, and this feels a lot like that character. And if I was going to play a 1-week race tomorrow, I would probably play this character. So that was kind of the mindset that I went into when planning this, but I also wanted it to be very simple and effective for a new player on top of that. So here's the skill setup we have. Our main attack is Ethereal Knives linked with faster projectiles, though faster projectiles with the new passive tree that includes an extra 10% projectile speed just there is not strictly necessary, so you can actually drop that in favor of something else if you like, but it's still a decent support gems to run, so we run that. We then run Added Fire or Life Leech. We only switch out Life Leech for some of the more difficult maps and things like that, or if we're going through a boss that's a bit scarier, we can switch in Life Leech, especially if we're playing in hardcore, give a nice survivability boost. Eventually we'll just be running Added Fire, and we could eventually use the very, very late game Doriani's Invitation for extra leech as well, so it's not much of a problem. This character also has some life on kill, so no need to worry about leech for the vast majority of content. Now here is the 3-link that you'll be able to level with. EK, faster projectiles, added fire, and that is a sick leveling setup. And if you can get a 4-link while leveling, you can chuck in echo or faster casting for a really, really good leveling setup. I leveled an EK character just recently through the entire game, and this was without the buffed passive skill tree, and it felt about as good as Searing Bond was, and Searing Bond has been like an OP leveling skill. So EK should be like feeling even better than that now, because the early game passive tree damage wise has been buffed pretty significantly, so EK should be a really, really strong leveling skill. And then for our 5th link, we can chuck on faster casting. In addition to echo, you can use added chaos instead of faster casting, but I think faster casting is probably going to be better overall. And then your 6th link can be empower. However, this works just fine on a 4-link. Without faster casting and empower, this is still going to be quite strong in endgame content, so very easy to get up and running there. We'll use a standard cast when damage taken setup with these links just here. We'll be running Grace and Hatred. I don't think this build will need to run Clarity, so I've just put that with a question mark now. I don't think it'll need that at all, so I'll actually delete this for now, and that's something you can think about adding in later if you want to. But basically Grace for a lot of extra armor thanks to Iron Reflexes, and Hatred for a lot of extra damage on Ethereal Knives because it converts the physical to cold damage and then adds it on top. Now we use Lightning Warp, faster casting and reduced duration for fast mobility. It's basically an instant teleport ability, feels very nice. And then, since we have a few extra slots, I decided to throw in Arc with Culling Strike and Item Rarity, and you can use this to cull bosses when they get to low life to get a little bit of extra loot from them. So pretty simple stuff there. There's no required items for this build. Karui Ward is nice for leveling. It costs an Alch to a Chaos, but you don't need that by any stretch. It's just a nice one to use while leveling. And then for late game, some recommended end game goal items. It's good to have goals to work towards. Ming's Heart and Doriana's Invitation. These items are reasonably expensive, but you don't need them to get into maps. Ming's Heart gives a big damage boost, Doriana's gives a damage boost, and some life leech from physical damage. So these are fantastic stuff just there. Bandit quests are normal for life, cruel for fizz damage, and merciless will be the passive. So pretty easy stuff just there. You can see after running our 2 auras, Grace and Hatred, with the setup I have on this skill tree, we end up with 75% mana unreserved. So it's plenty of mana to play around with our skills, use our curses and all of that jazz. Curses, by the way, will be projectile weakness, and we'll link that to fast casting. We also have Enfeeble for more difficult monsters, to like bosses and things like that. And then we also have Vile Haste in there as well. You can trade out Vile Haste for increased duration if you like. That'll increase the duration of the curse and also of the Vile Haste, and both of those things are quite nice. Now the only other thing I recommend getting is Atsuri's Promise, which is a flask that will become available after a few days when people start farming Atsuri. It's the most common Atsuri drop, and it gives a big damage boost, so it's a pretty nice item to go for. So let's go through the passive tree just here. Starting off Shadow, Ethereal Knives was buffed very substantially. Through the Shadow changes, we have a huge amount of physical damage available here. Cast speed, projectile damage, and projectile speed, and another really sick physical damage node there, which also has move speed to make the character a bit more fun to play. We come up this, in terms of, actually, I'll stick with the leveling order, or the order you'll actually take as your level. Basically, you're gonna want to grab Soul Siphon while leveling to make leveling a little bit easier with EK, and then Blood Siphon as well, so we'll take this just here. Gives a little bit of life on kill, which is very nice for survivability. So we'll grab all these guys here. We'll leave this top section of the Shadow for late game. You can get that much later on. From there, you're probably going to want to head down and grab Ballistic Mastery. It's pretty nice to go ahead and grab that straight away, or you can leave this Ranger section for later as well. But I like that projectile speed on Ballistic Mastery, so you can grab that. You could even grab Heart of Oak for a bit of regen while leveling as well. We can come down through this way. We can scoot up at that point and grab the life and cast speed. We don't need to get the aura effect stuff until much later on, and you don't probably need the mana until late game either. Then we can come down through this way. I suggest at this point, probably if you're playing hardcore, to scoot over and grab the Scion Life Cluster to grab the vast majority of that. You can grab these resistances just here if you like, or you can in fact drop these resistances and actually go instead for Survivalist. I actually quite like this option as well. So you have a bit of a choice there about how you sort of get resist from the tree to help gear your character a bit more easily. You come down this way, we have these excellent flask effect nodes here, increased life recovery from flasks. Life flasks in the new build have been buffed hugely, so getting this extra 60% life recovery here is going to make them even more potent, so we'll be able to really have a lot of survivability with good life flask use. Then we'll beeline down and grab Iron Reflexes. At that point, you can pretty much probably grab the aura cluster here, which allows you to run both your auras together, and then you can go in and grab this extra aura cluster here, start grabbing extra life, grab the extra life from here, start grabbing Revenge of the Hunted for more damage, grab this side just here. And overall, it's a very, very simple tree. There's not really much you can do wrong in it. You just need to, once you kind of want to start running both of your auras, you need to get this cluster at least, and then this cluster makes things a little bit easier as well. If you get both of these clusters earlier on, you can actually run both of your auras together with a lower level reduced mana. So usually you'll be waiting for something like a level 15 reduced mana to run them both together while having enough mana to cast your skills, but by getting both, you'll be able to run them a little bit earlier. But there's really not too much to say. The character is just sort of, the build sort of slotted together really nicely. We ended up getting a lot of really efficient damage nodes, the fizz damage, the projectile damage, and like extra fizz damage nodes over there. It worked out really nicely and ended up getting a really solid amount of life, a bit of extra evasion scaling here and there, so the evasion gear that you end up wearing as well as the Grace aura will scale and then convert to armor with Iron Reflexes. Not really too much to say. Pretty simple character, and that's exactly the way I designed it. Excellent character for a new player. Or for your first build in the new leagues, and I do highly recommend this one. I think it's going to turn out very nicely. Anyway, let me know what you think. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.